The earthvox podcast. The earthvox podcast. earthvox podcast.
And we're back. We're back again. We'll see how this goes. I'm on my last nerve, so I hate to say it, but if the live stream isn't happening, my apologies to the people who usually enjoy the live stream. I'm super sick and tired of all the issues that are constantly presented here. I'm looking at Rumble, checking the audio feed to see if it's potentially fixed, but honestly, like I'm ready to go, man. I've been off for 2 weeks. I've been preparing. I mean, I never stopped bookmarking stories that interested me that I wanted to talk about. Unfortunately, the reality is we're not going to get to all of it because there's only limited time. So I'm not interested in dealing with the technical difficulties any further. I'm ready to rock. I want to rumble. Speaking of Rumble, it appears that the live stream is working well on Rumble, theoretically on YouTube also, and Twitch, which I don't really care about because the corporate oligarchs loathe this message. And we're streaming live on X. Welcome back to all of you. The holidays are over, unfortunately. I'm a little sad about it. I'm a little glad for it in other ways, but I always had this weird thing as a child. Maybe a chemical imbalance. That I needed something to look forward to. Or I felt depressed. It's sad. I mean, think about an 8-year-old kid being depressed because he doesn't have any plans in the future to look forward to. Now we're entering the long slog that is January and February and March, April, all the way up to, I don't know. What are you looking forward to? Spring break? President's Day? Black History Month? Anybody? It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a grind for several weeks, and that's what I'm not looking forward to. That's why I'm kind of sad that the holidays are over, even though, I mean, put all the Christmas decorations away. Throw away some of your old toys to make room for the new toys. And Happy New Year, too, by the way. 2026 was entered. I guess there was some story, I don't know if I bookmarked it, about a foiled terror plot that was set to take place on New Year's Day. There, a church was burned, allegedly because of some terroristic activities. I think everyone was fine there. Oh no, I didn't save my first link. The first link that I was going to share with you. It's okay. It should be pretty easy to pull up because I had obviously I've already pulled it previously and bookmarked it, copied the link. Just I don't know. I saw something shiny. I got distracted and I didn't paste it into my notes, but I did find the account with the best link to the video, or with the best quality video. But yes, we enjoyed our New Year's Eve as always, we Americans in Times Square in New York, with the usual suspects, Andy Cohen and Eric Adams, and it was so deliciously pathetic. I thought I mean, the way it goes. I see something and I go, oh boy, I have thoughts on this. I'm going to share it with you.
Watching the final moments of Mayor Adams'
No.
chaotic.
Or are we going on a De Blasio style?
No,
no.
I just want to say,
Don't.
I mean,
No,
he got his pardons.
I'm out.
He's
Andy, we gotta
pardoned.
cut you off.
No,
I've seen this
he's
happen.
fine. No, I'm just saying.
No.
Great, you got your pardons. Go off into
It's after
the
midnight.
sunset.
It's after.
We'll
Sweetie.
fiddle with what we have, with what you've left us
This is
with.
the thing with you and
Right.
mayors, man.
Go dance away. We'll see you at all the
He can't
parties.
help himself.
You've
He can't
partied
help
your
himself.
way through 4
We will see you at
years.
Zero Bond,
And you've got, we'll see you at
12:35.
All the-
Don't be
all
late,
the
Eric.
Clubs.
Wow.
We'll see you there.
Yeah.
You got the pardon.
Okay, is this how we're entering 20?
No, I just want to say,
No.
the guy, Mayor Adams,
He did a good job with the
did it.
rats, right?
You did it. You did it, didn't you?
God.
Honestly.
Wow.
But I will say this. I think he maybe dented the rat population.
Oh no.
No, I
He's done
think
a
he
great
helped with
work
the
on
rats.
that.
That was
No,
the
no,
Ricky
no.
Van Veen.
I think they're going to be begging for Eric Adams. Of course, Andy Cohen, the drunken, rhymes with baguette. Loathing Eric Adams, of course, the wealthy, affluent, preferred class in New York. They're not going to feel any of the policies of Zoran Mamdani. They don't care about any of the things that Mamdani was talking about during his campaign, which were lies, coincidentally. Bus fares are going up now. It's going to cost you more as a New York resident to ride the bus. But on the campaign trail, Zoran Mamdani said that he was going to make bus fares free and fast. And is that happening? No, it's not. And if you voted for somebody based on what they said in public, then you deserve to be embarrassed and disappointed. We have more to talk about. As it pertains to elections, they're going to be begging for Eric Adams back in New York by 2027. You watch. This is my prediction. One of many predictions for 2026. No others come to mind right now, but there was an incredibly interesting development over the weekend. Donald Trump arrested Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. Here's what happened. On January 3rd, 2026, the United States launched Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela to capture President Nicolas Maduro on long-standing U.S. federal charges of narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses. The operation, authorized by President Donald Trump late on January 2nd, involved over 150 aircraft from the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps, conducting airstrikes on Venezuelan air defenses, military bases, and infrastructure in northern areas like Caracas, Miranda, Aragua, and La Guaira, starting at 2:01 a.m. local time to create a window for the extraction. Special forces from Delta Force and the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, supported by FBI hostage rescue team agents, inserted via helicopters into Maduro's compound in Caracas, capturing him and his wife, Celia Flores, with minimal resistance amid a citywide power outage. The raid lasted under 30 minutes, after which the couple was flown to a U.S. aircraft carrier and then to New York City for processing, arriving by evening. Casualties included no U.S. fatalities, but 2 injuries, while around 40 Venezuelans and Cubans, including some civilians and Cuban guards, were killed. Maduro's government denounced the action as imperialist aggression, with Vice President Delcy Rodriguez assuming interim power, while the U.S. justified it as a law enforcement operation targeting a narco state. International reactions were largely critical, citing violations of sovereignty and international law without UN authorization. I wonder if Donald Trump went into Israel and arrested Benjamin Netanyahu, what would the response be from the UN and the mainstream media? Would we question the legality? Would we be lumping civilian and military casualties together to try to paint some kind of bleak picture about this literally flawless operation carried out by the Trump Department of War? I mean, it really, I mean, it's so interesting to consider. If Donald Trump conducted any of the operations that the left so badly wanted him, if he assassinated Vladimir Putin, invaded Russia and started bombing all of its cities and killing millions of Russian civilians, what would the reaction be from the mainstream media? Would they celebrate Donald Trump? I think they would. I mean, they've been calling Netanyahu a war criminal for years. Would it be nonstop questions of the legality of the operation if Donald Trump went into some deplorable country, according to the left, and arrested their president? But no, Venezuela was doing extremely beneficial things for the left. Financing campaigns, no doubt. Rigging elections, maybe. There's more on that. I asked Grok about the justification, and he responded, the Trump administration primarily justified the operation as an enforcement action to arrest Maduro on long-standing criminal charges. Maduro has been under U.S. federal indictment since 2020 for narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and related weapons offenses. U.S. officials described him as the head of the Cartel de los Soles. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast. Pardon me. A drug trafficking network involving Venezuelan military and government officials, allegedly flooding the U.S. with cocaine in partnerships with groups like Colombian rebels, the Cartel de los Soles, an international criminal organization, operating, it seems, with impunity in Venezuela. Of course, it's murky. I mean, essentially the same thing is happening in Mexico. But is Claudia Sheinbaum actively helping it? The way that Nicolas Maduro allegedly was in Venezuela? A bounty for information leading to his arrest had been increased to $50 million in 2025. Administration figures, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Attorney General Pam Bondi, emphasized the existence of arrest warrants and framed the military action as necessary to execute them and protect U.S. personnel. Parallels were drawn to the 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama to arrest Manuel Noriega. I mean, it's obvious, like, we should all agree at this point that the left will never condone or celebrate anything that Donald Trump does, which I think is why it's so fascinating to think about circumstances in which the left could potentially celebrate the things that Donald Trump is doing. I mean, they loved him until he tried to go against the establishment. But the left, of course, hates that Trump captured the, what they're calling, legitimately elected leader of Venezuela. But here's what Marco Rubio had to say on X. He writes, Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, and his regime is not the legitimate government. Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Soles, a narco-terror organization which has taken possession of a country. And he is under indictment for pushing drugs into the United States. But this, of course, is all dismissed as lies. No, couldn't be. Couldn't be. It's illegal. We followed up with this post. Marco Rubio writes, watch the Maduro death squad in Venezuela drag a man into the street, shoot him at point-blank range, and then drive off. Let there be no doubt that this regime is not a government. It is a mafia. And he shares this video from Malabor Petit. Translated from Spanish reads, when reviewing the multiple images of the repression by the regime's security forces of Nicolas Maduro against the people that reach us from Venezuela, we have the obligation to denounce it so that there is no doubt before the world about the criminal nature of the dictatorship. And they've taken to the streets, the Venezuelans, celebrating their liberation. I mean, we're talking about the 130% inflation, 93% poverty, I believe it was. Not to mention, if I'm remembering this correctly, Maduro ruled that the previous election was invalid and maintained power. Does the left have any problem with that? The Biden administration? I mean, this guy was indicted in 2020. And Biden just looked the other way. Let them ignore the results of a seemingly legitimate election. Of course, there's a lot to get into on the election side of things. We know that Venezuela was that Smartmatic was a company, an election machine company owned by Venezuelans. And now that all of this has taken place, the liberation of Venezuela from Nicolas Maduro by the United States and Donald Trump. It's extremely interesting that these old reports have been unearthed. They've been hidden away, suppressed by who knows what, who knows who, to come out now after this operation has taken place. It shakes my faith. It shakes my faith in the legitimacy, but that I'm not saying it's not legitimate. I mean, obviously, this is a real report by Lou Dobbs. This is the wrong link. By Lou Dobbs of Fox News fame. Oh, please tell me I didn't do it. Okay. Just clicked the wrong link. Didn't save the wrong URL. Here it is, Lou Dobbs from 2006. It's a 4-minute clip, but it is juicy.
A firm owned by Venezuela could be allowed to take over one of this country's top voting machine firms. Venezuela, of course, led by Hugo Chavez, working to change the views of most South American countries, moved to the left. Critics of the deal say our nation's very democracy is now for sale without anyone doing a thing about it. Getty Pilgrim reports.
The use of some 19,000 electronic voting machines in the city of Chicago and Cook County primary on March 21st of this year is now under intense scrutiny. The U.S. company that makes the machines, Sequoia, was bought in 2005 by Smartmatic, a private company primarily owned by Venezuelan businessmen. When Chicago had problems with the machines, a dozen Venezuelan employees were there to help with the election. Chicago officials are outraged.
I think that American elections ought to be run by American companies and ought to be run by American citizens, not Venezuelan nationals.
Smartmatic is technically based in Boca Raton, Florida, but the president of the company, Jack Blaine, testified to the Chicago City Council. Fewer than a dozen Smartmatic employees work in Florida. The majority of the workers are based in Venezuela. Watchdog groups question why U.S. voting machines would be under the control of citizens of another country, especially a country whose own election process is highly suspect.
We believe this is a national security issue. There is no way that companies belonging to non-U.S. corporations should have access to our elections.
The Treasury Department is supposed to monitor sales of U.S. companies to overseas investors where there is a question of national security, such as in the Dubai ports deal, the so-called CFIUS review process. Some in Congress are demanding an investigation.
In the case of Smartmatic, there are a number of unanswered questions. That's why I wrote to the Secretary of the Treasury and asked them to review the ownership. It's offshore, it's murky, no one seems to know who owns it. Certainly our government should know.
A potential risk to the democratic process. Now, we called the Treasury Department to ask if the sale of Sequoia in 2005 had been reviewed or not. Treasury told us they were aware of the sale, but can't confirm if it's been reviewed or not. And some in Congress and voter watchdog groups also are demanding a better answer than that, Lou.
Well, this Treasury Department is filled with incompetence. They have stopped in over 1,500 reviews, only one sale to foreign owners, American
This was the George Bush administration.
assets. But a voting machine company, critical to this country's election count, and they can't tell you whether or not the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States reviewed it or not.
They have no answer for us. And
These are the most arrogant, incompetent, bureaucratic idiots. I mean, the Treasury Department is trying to move ahead of a number of other departments in that category.
It's incomprehensible that this would be in any way.
Have we put a call into? I know John Snow's on a short tenure and shortly on tenure, but perhaps somebody who works for him would have some basic sense that he owes the American people an answer.
Lou, we have been trying to get the officials. They said they thought it was this company. So there are a lot of people in murky territory right here, and I think it really does deserve some examination.
Great. It certainly does. We're going to continue to do so. I think we need to tip our hat to the Congresswoman. She did a marvelous job in looking into this, and hats off to her. At least somebody is trying to make some sense. This administration, call the White House. Let's find out the answer so this audience knows exactly what's going on by Monday evening. And this is ridiculous.
We are looking into it actively, Lou.
Thank you, Kitty.
And of course, nothing was done. We still use Smartmatic and Dominion voting machines to this day, and still used them in 2016 when Donald Trump was elected, and used them again in 2024 when Donald Trump was elected for his second term. Allegedly, reportedly, this has been the case. But conservatives want to believe that Donald Trump's election was pristine. We overwhelmed the fraud with our turnouts. Maybe that's true. I find it hard to believe. I don't want to believe that Donald Trump is part of the system. I want to believe that he is the one that's going to repair the damage. Can I? I don't know if I can. It seems silly to believe that the elections that went to the presidents that we wanted to win were the legitimate ones, but not the elections that went to the presidents that we hated, that did potentially irreparable damage to the country, though those were the fraudulent ones. Is Donald Trump doing no damage to the country? Not specifically about Venezuela. I mean, it still remains to be seen. I will concede. But every day that goes by where these evil people are not held accountable for the destructive things that they're doing, I lose a little bit more faith. And I just can't help but wonder what happens. I'm going to ask Grok. We'll see what happens. We'll probably move on. There's so much to cover, and we're already almost halfway through. I think we're probably guaranteed to run over. What do you think? What happens to Congressman Maloney after she exposed Smartmatic voting systems in 2006? And we will let him stew on that. Donald Trump posted another 5-minute video just linking to this. I believe I reposted it. I should check because I'm not going to play it. As I mentioned, we're running low on time, or we're running out of time on all of the things that I wanted to cover. This particular video has not been reposted, so I will repost it for you. It's 5.5 minutes long, and it basically covers in greater detail, with more of a dire tone, what has been going on with our election systems. The short explanation for me would be that it seems billionaires have been buying elections for politicians going back to at least 2006. And we thought we were getting somebody different with Donald Trump. We thought that we had overcome the fraud. But here we are, almost 1 year exactly into Donald Trump's second term, and we've already engaged in regime change. Maybe Nicolas Maduro wasn't the legitimately elected leader of Venezuela. What should be done then? Should the United States get involved? How can we prove it? Where's the evidence? If you want public support for your operations, maybe give us some information. The left might not support your reasons because they may never support your reasons for doing anything. But at least you can be honest and transparent with the citizens. Rock responded to my question, what happened to Congressman Maloney after she exposed Smartmatic voting systems in 2006? He responds in not too many words. Go Grok! The #1 AI, by the way, as of last week, in terms of investment. DeepSeek #2, which I believe is the Chinese one. After raising national security concerns about Smartmatic's ownership of Sequoia voting systems in 2006, including writing letters to the Treasury Secretary that prompted a federal investigation by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, Carolyn Maloney, a Democrat from New York, continued her long tenure in Congress without apparent backlash tied to the issue. She was reelected to the House of Representatives multiple times in 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, and 2020, representing New York's 14th district until 2013, and then the redrawn 12th district until 2023. During this period, she held prominent leadership roles. Her congressional career ended after the 2022 Democratic Party, where redistricting merged. Oh, Democratic primary, not Democratic Party. My bad. Where redistricting merged her district with Rep. Jerry Nadler's, leading to her defeat by a 56% to 24% margin. So what do you think happened there? She spoke out against the election rigging, and not only did she continue to live her life, she also continued to be reelected to Congress. Almost like somebody got in her ear and said, look, you drop this investigation, this whistleblowing that you're doing about foreign ownership of American voting systems, and you can get elected again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Because corruption pays in United States politics, and we got so much more on that. Another post from the Skiff at the SCIF on X. Pennsylvania receives back almost 1 million more mail-in ballots than it sent out in 2020. And witness testifies that non-electional personnel uploading USB devices to voting machines over 24 times. Allegheny and Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania, received back 2,589,242 million mail-in ballots when it only sent out 1,823,148 mail-in ballots. And I covered this extensively in 2020 and 2021 when all of this was being exposed. But it's news now. Why? Why is it news now? Similar things taking place in Oregon, exposed thanks to the work of James O'Keefe of Judicial Watch, who was, I believe, in 2019 or maybe 2018, supposed to take on some sort of official judicial oversight infrastructure. But of course, that never happened, or if it did, it only lived for a few months until Biden took office because, of course, Trump lost in 2020. At Wall Street Apes writes on X, Tom Fitton has evidence, quote, Oregon and 35 of its counties have an overall registration rate exceeding 100%. Let's watch the video.
Oregon and 35 of its counties have an overall registration rate exceeding 100%. Think about that number for a second. Let's say you've got 100 voters, and all 100 voters are registered to vote. That's 100% registration rate. If you have 100...
He means eligible voters. Or eligible, citizens eligible to vote would be a more appropriate way to say it.
105% registration rate, that means you have more people on the rolls than are living there and eligible to vote. It's a pretty good indication that if you got more people on the rolls that are actually living there and eligible to vote, they're not cleaning up the rolls.
When are we going to get more into these statistics? I'm ready to hear more about this stuff. I'm ready to hear more about the fraudulent elections. Trump arrested the president of Venezuela. What's next? I'm chomping at the bit here. I'm tired of hearing about fraud and that just being the end of it. Oh, hey, taxpayers, voters, citizens, you're being ripped off. You're being ripped off. Gee, thanks for that information. Is it on me? Is it on the citizens of Minnesota to take matters into their own hands? I mean, I think that's what the mainstream media wants. And their handlers. But I mean, wouldn't that be like prime fodder for the mainstream media to activate the radical violent left to actually go to war with the federal government? Oh, he's arresting congressmen now. And arrest congressmen he should if this post from Brian Eastwood is true. Now, Brian Eastwood, I dug into this a little bit. He's been a journalist for like 10 years, or maybe longer, a published journalist. And he is still known as a conservative influencer. He writes on X, holy shit. It's looking like Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in Congress, and others, tried to tip off the Maduro regime that an imminent capture mission was imminent. We never said he was a great writer, but that's what he wrote. Sorry, Brian. If the DOJ and FBI don't start punishing treason, then America is effed. Make firing squads great again. I concur. And then he shares this screen grab. Washington, D.C., January 3rd, 2026, in a triumphant display of President Trump's unyielding resolve for national security. The Department of National Intelligence, under Director Tulsi Gabbard, has revealed CIA intelligence exposing a desperate Democratic attempt to sabotage a U.S. military operation. A brave whistleblower from within the DNI provided documents to CBS News showing how Democratic leadership traced back to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries tried to tip off Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro about an impending capture mission. However, the warning arrived moments too late. Maduro was already in U.S. custody, being flown away in a military helicopter after a flawless operation. President Trump's strategic appointment of Gabbard has been key in unearthing this treachery, proving once again his administration's prowess in neutralizing threats, both foreign and domestic. I appreciate the cheerleaderiness, but let's do more. Everyone working against the interests of Americans should be arrested and charged. Everyone. At the very least, removed from their positions of power. When does that start? The things that these people are engaged in is unbelievable. Kind of an old story back from the 15th, the day after my last show, our last show. Zero Hedge posts. Clinton judge orders destruction of key evidence in case against James Comey. I just wonder, does this still stand? Was the evidence destroyed? And why the hell would a judge order something like that? The headline from zerohedge.com, if I can get around the GD pop-ups, Clinton judge orders destruction of key evidence in case against James Comey. Let's read a little bit. A Clinton-appointed federal judge in Washington has stepped into the James Comey saga with an order that effectively tells the FBI to wipe a key evidentiary trail tied to the former director's obstruction case, and to do it quickly. The move drops the Justice Department into a separation of powers storm. At the same time, it is trying to salvage its prosecution of the man who helped ignite the Trump-Russia hoax. That was James Comey. He was at the center of it, the inner circle. And a judge just ordered evidence destroyed in this trial. A little fact check from Grok here. The Zero Hedge post highlights a December 13th, 2025 ruling by Clinton-appointed U.S. District Judge Colleen Collar-Cottley. Gotta love the hyphenated last name. She's maintaining her independence. Ordering the DOJ to destroy its copies of 2017 seized emails between James Comey and associate Daniel Richman, deemed key evidence in Comey's dismissed indictment for false statements to Congress about the 2016 Russia probe. The case stems from Comey's 2020 testimony on Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Indictments were dismissed in November 2025 by another Clinton appointee due to an invalid prosecutor appointment. Just basically any excuse that they could come up with. And so now they're ordering the destruction of evidence in case the Trump administration tries to bring back the indictment, as they have and are efforting to do. But this judge is going to be able to continue to make these unjust rulings until somebody does something and holds these people accountable. Bridget Fertig writes on X at Light on Liberty, when corrupt judges remove juries, throw out cases, and ignore prosecuting criminals, you have a corrupt system that needs to be gutted and overhauled. Disgraceful judges. Remove them all and investigate their backgrounds as well as their bank accounts. Hear, hear. Let's watch the video.
Multiple Minnesota judges are under fire for dismissing several recent Somali fraud cases. They are Judge Sarah West, Judge Amber Brennan, and Judge Hillary Calligiri. The Hennepin County Judge.
There's some commonalities there. Very interesting. You can see the video on X and YouTube and Twitch and Rumble if you care to witness any more similarities.
Judges, because of their decisions, have allowed millions in alleged Medicaid theft to go unpunished. For example, the Hennepin County jury unanimously convicted Somali migrant Abdul Fattah Yusuf on 6 counts of aiding theft by swindle in August after deliberating for just 4 hours. He stole $7.2 million from Medicaid. Jurors described the evidence as overwhelming, with the foreperson saying it was beyond a reasonable doubt based on financial records, witness testimony, and patterns of fraud, diversion. However, in a reversal, Judge Sarah West arbitrarily set aside the jury's verdict and entered a judgment of acquittal on all counts. West ruled that the prosecution's evidence was circumstantial, even though they proved that Yusuf had control over the company and directly received over $1.1 million in transfers. She ruled that they failed to exclude every possible hypothesis of innocence. Judge Brennan dismissed all charges against Lul Ahmad, Yusuf's wife, and alleged co-conspirator, saying there was insufficient evidence before trial. This kept any evidence of documents showing her involvement in check cashing and fund transfers tied to the scheme from going public. Judge Calligiri threw out the case against co-defendant Mohammed, who faced racketeering and theft charges for his role in a connected home healthcare operation that allegedly stole over $1.8 million in ineligible Medicaid reimbursement.
So a judge just completely disregards a jury's verdicts, and the guy walks free. And the judge is allowed to continue presiding. What in the hell is going on? And what is Congress doing? Well, I think they're adjourned. I think they're adjourned. How long has Congress been adjourned recently? I don't know. You never know what kind of language to use with these AI large language models. You'll get. I'll ask him. I'll ask Grok to give me some kind of simple answer, or I'll ask him a simple question. He'll come back, well, since Congress was formed in 1778, they've been adjourned for 23 years and 47 days in total. Is that the answer you were looking for? It's true, but honestly, I mean, I got to throw a little bit of praise to Grok. I haven't had to deal with any of the usual ridiculousness that I've criticized in the past. Of course, as I say that, I'm still waiting for an answer here. Maybe I click my quick answer button to find out. I mean, we all know Congress gets a lot of time off. And while Congress has been adjourned, they've been off 10 to 11 days. Adjourned December 23rd. And the new session started yesterday. That doesn't make sense. So they'll be back tomorrow, getting to work, I'm sure, on impeaching all of these judges that just ignore the law and do whatever they want. From Just the News, back on, let's see, we're kind of blasting to the past here because there were these things. I mean, also on December 15th, this story broke from Just the News. Headline, Hillary Clinton's own Russia scandal. FBI memos detail how Uranium One probe thwarted. The FBI and DOJ slow-walked their investigation into the Clinton Foundation and the sale of Uranium One to Russia-backed interests. This was a major story. This was a big deal. This was essentially Clinton supplying our enemies with uranium. I mean, is Russia our enemy, our adversary? I don't know. I mean, the more they come out against the left, the more I like them. But this was a big deal. And it was covered up by the FBI. And stonewalled and slow walked. And now the statute of limitations has run out. So justice will not be served in this case. More evidence of judicial corruption and injustice. And of course, we all know, we've all been inundated with the stories about the Somalian corruption. That the left and Democrats have been working overtime to try and cover up, to try and dismiss. No big deal. Mario Knopfel writes on X. If I can get my mouse to click. They knew. Local news backed up the Minnesota fraud claims months ago. While the media elite scrambles to discredit Nick Shirley, he was the on-the-ground, independent citizen journalist, they're calling him, that exposed the story. KSTP5 Eyewitness News, a mainstream local outlet, literally ran a fraud investigation in January, exposing the exact same pattern. They found daycare centers like the Quality Learning Center, which was actually misspelled on the sign, Quality Luring Center, sucking up millions in taxpayer money, then ghosting when asked basic questions. There's a 6-minute report from the local news station that I have reposted. If you would like to take a look, we're not going to listen because, as I mentioned, we've covered this. We covered it months ago when it was first suggested. But what's going on in Minnesota is literally worse than secession. It should be considered an act of war. Billions and billions of dollars have been stolen. This post from @ThePatriot Oasis writes, major breaking. Linda McMahon just caught Minnesota engaging in massive education fraud. This letter from the Secretary of Education to Governor Walz. The integrity of America's federalist system, where governance is a partnership between national and state authorities, only works if state leaders uphold justice and common sense. When states abuse their authority to oversee free and fair elections, enforce criminal law, or distribute entitlements and other public benefits, that system of states' rights and liberties, that relationship of trust, falls apart. You have been Minnesota's governor since 2019. During that time, your careless lack of oversight and abuse of the welfare system has attracted fraudsters from around the world, especially from Somalia, to establish a beachhead of criminality in our country. As President Trump put it, you have turned Minnesota into a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity. At the beginning of this year, the U.S. Department of Education became aware that fraudulent college applicants, especially concentrated in Minnesota, were gaming the federal post-secondary education system to collect money that was intended for young Americans to help them afford college. We call these fraudsters ghost students because they were not ID verified and often did not live in the United States, or they simply did not exist. In Minnesota, 1,834 ghost students were found to have received $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans. They collected checks from the federal government, shared a small portion of the money with the college, and pocketed the rest without attending the college at all. The letter continues, but I think we've got a good picture of what's happening here. Evidenced further by Keith Ellison's involvement. Gunther Eagleman writes on X, wow, President Trump just dropped this footage exposing Minnesota Democrat AG Keith Ellison, who personally met with shady Somalis and known fraudsters to rake in campaign donations. And there are records. This was a backdoor deal, agreeing not to prosecute the fraud in exchange for campaign donations by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Here is the presentation of the evidence in Minnesota Congress. And listen to the Democrats obstruct this presentation.
Recently released audio recordings reveal conversations that happened between the Attorney General and individuals who were later implicated and in some cases convicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal. In those recordings, the Attorney General...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of order.
Masons 124, paragraph 1, in debate, members must confine remarks to questions before the body and avoid personalities. The debate here is not any individual. It is the policy and the amendment.
Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General was asked in those recordings to use his authority to protect businesses under investigation for wrongdoing, and rather than distance himself or remain neutral to allow the legal process to unfold, he responded in those recordings, of course, I'm here to help.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, there was a point of order and I didn't hear a ruling or any resolution of the point of order. Was there a resolution to it?
I'll remind the body that there was no ruling made by the Speaker as to the point of order that was just stated. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General in those recordings even urged the individuals, let's go fight these people. He was offered campaign contributions during that meeting, contributions that he later accepted. The release of those audio recordings raises questions about what's going on in the Attorney General's office that go directly to the need to pass the legislation that we had previously debated, House File 20. Although he has insisted that nothing came of the meeting, his office blocks disclosure of closed investigative
point
data.
of order.
Masons 124.
The A11 will help ensure that what happens behind closed doors in the Attorney General's office sees the light of day. We can protect people's privacy while shining a light on what the Attorney General's office is doing, who is influencing that office, whether it's those under a criminal investigation, nonprofits, corporations, or billionaires with political agendas, because Minnesotans have a right to know when their Attorney General's office is working with them. Minnesotans have a right to know whether the Attorney General is telling the truth, that nothing came of that meeting. That's why the A11 is so important.
It makes perfect sense to me. You grease the palm of the Attorney General so that he doesn't prosecute the crimes that you and your community have been perpetrating on the citizens of Minnesota. Yeah, we're stealing, but if you don't prosecute us for stealing, we'll contribute to your campaign as much as possible. Because, of course, there are campaign donation laws that say you can't contribute over a certain amount. Barack Obama sent people to prison for violating this law when they contributed to the campaigns of his opponents. But this is the real sweetening of the deal, beyond campaign donations. The sweetest deal is the promise that the Somali community would dutifully vote to re-elect any of the leadership that allows the fraud to continue, that allows them to continue enriching themselves by defrauding the benefits system that exists for Americans. And this is the law of the land in Minnesota. Eric Doherty writes on X, breaking. Scott Pressler just found potential massive voter fraud in Minnesota. Let's watch the video.
Administration is staggering. Well, outside the margin of victory. Joining us now, conservative activist and early vote action founder, Scott Pressler. Scott, welcome to the program. You're on the ground a lot, and you love registering people to vote. But this is concerning. Not only are they doing it same day with an ID, without an ID, but they allow other people to vouch for other voters.
Yes, I want to be very clear. This is according to Minnesota state law that with vouching, no proof of residency is required. No photo or voter ID is required. If we were all living in the same neighborhood, I could vouch for you, Lawrence, and say, I know Lawrence, I know Will Kane, and just simply my vouching and you guys signing an oath declaring that you are following the law, you will be handed 2 ballots and you will be able to vote. And if I have 6 other friends that I vouch for, my 1 registered voter in Minnesota could get 8 voters. Now, what's even more concerning, and you just said this earlier, is that if I were an employee at a residential facility, according to state law, I could vouch for unlimited voters by simply showing proof of being an employee at the residential facility. And so thanks to Nick Shirley, we are now exposing potential fraud when it comes to our election system.
This is why I can't really hold the voters accountable in reality, because this kind of thing has gone on. One legal citizen, which could be a work permit, it could be any of the number of things that the Biden administration had done over the last 5 years, 4 years, to give these illegal immigrants legal residency through whatever executive orders, means that these legal residents could, of course, be registered to vote. Because what is AG Keith Ellison going to hold these people accountable? When they're the same people that are making sure he gets reelected and that he has plenty of campaign cash? This is why I can't hold the legitimate voters in Minnesota accountable for the leadership that exists in that state right now. And we have more instances of fraud, unprosecuted, by AG Keith Ellison. Kevin Dalton writes on X, you're never going to guess what happened when Rich McHugh from News Nation went knocking on the door of several assisted living facilities in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Turns out that despite being currently under indictment for defrauding the state of millions of dollars, the state is still paying the owner millions of dollars a year. Of course, because he's contributing to the campaigns that are in power right now. But there's more. Eric Doherty writes, the Somalis have registered 60, quote, healthcare businesses in one single dilapidated warehouse building. I'm sure there's nothing to see there. All on the up and up in Minnesota, no doubt. Fraudulent elections, vouching for voters, healthcare fraud, childcare fraud, education fraud. Is anyone gonna do anything? Well, maybe. We're back to work tomorrow. But HHS is getting involved. Thank heavens. Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services, along with his sidekick, whose name will pop up in this video momentarily, have announced that they are taking action against Minnesota.
Hello, I'm HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. I'm here with Assistant Secretary Alex Adams. Alex oversees the Administration for Children and Families. Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
My office, ACF, provides Minnesota $185 million in child care funds each year. That money should be helping 19,000 American children, including toddlers and infants. Any dollar stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children. Yesterday, I spoke directly with the director of the Minnesota Child Care Services Office. She could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud are isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide.
Today, we have taken 3 direct actions against the blatant fraud that seems to be rampant in Minnesota. First, I have activated our Defend the Spend system for all ACF childcare payments across America. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment. Second, I have just signed and sent a demand letter to Governor Walz. I required a full 360 review of these centers. This includes attendance records, licenses, complaints, investigations, and inspections.
And third, we've launched a dedicated fraud reporting hotline and email address at childcare.gov. Whether you're a parent, a provider, a member of the public, we want to hear from you. Let me be crystal clear. ACF expects every state to uphold the highest standards of oversight, monitoring, and accountability for federal dollars. Minnesota is no exception.
We're committed to holding bad actors accountable. Regardless of rank or office, anyone who's involved in perpetrating this fraud against the American people should expect to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
And it's escalated.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human
The beginning, or since this
Services
post went out. How do I close the damn? When was this?
Hello,
on the 30th.
I'm HHS.
It has been escalated. Oh, why didn't I get my pop-up? For crying out loud, it's falling apart! At @CharlieK_news posted on X. Tim Walz is losing it. The walls are closing in. I love the editorializing, the sensationalizing. In addition to HHS cutting off all childcare funding, we also have the Department of Labor probing unemployment insurance fraud. The USDA is digging into SNAP abuse. The Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice are going door to door serving warrants and seizing evidence. I'm not impressed. What about Keith Ellison? What about Tim Walz? What about the people who were benefiting from the frauds and allowing it to continue? We have evidence. Are there going to be any nighttime raids? Are we going to have 30 FBI agents with AR-15s kicking down Tim Walz's door with CNN cameras at the ready? Why do I feel like it's not going to happen? Oh, and also, state Democrats are scrambling to make it illegal for the businesses that are involved in this fraud. These assisted living businesses and, quote, healthcare businesses and childcare businesses. State Dems are trying to legislate to make it illegal for businesses to provide the data, the evidence to the federal government. So even if a legal business was operating and wanted to prove to the federal government that they were a legal business, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. Does Minnesota care about the legal businesses being able to prove that they're operating as legal businesses? No, they only care about covering their own asses. And while Congress is adjourned for the holidays, these people have all of this time to cover up for their crimes. Leah Rain posts on X. Headline, Feds, Somali gangs ran sex ring in 3 states. 29 people have been indicted in a sex trafficking ring spanning 3 U.S. states and allegedly run by, wait for it, Minneapolis-based Somali gangs. And there's 12 of them lined up. Looking very like the I am the captain now guy from that movie, Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks. Did you remember that? You ever see that? It's worth a watch. I enjoyed it. So the elected leaders in Minnesota are allowing Somalians to rob you, kill you, rape you, as long as they keep voting. Illegally, by the way, which I'm sure they'll figure out a way to cover up. No big deal. Just keep giving us money and keep voting us into power. And you can operate with impunity. Interesting data point here from @BeaverD. Daycares in Minnesota donated a combined $35 million to political campaigns in the last 2 years. Didn't even try to hide the evidence. $35 million. That's probably pretty useful in local Minnesota elections. Are you mad yet? Have you heard enough? Well, let's hear what Trump has to say about it. Got a little 1-minute video shared by none other than Alex Jones himself.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool. I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. These Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, it just happened. They have destroyed Minnesota, that beautiful land, that beautiful state. It's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution.
Well said. Well justified.
The mayor of
I mean, arrest them all. Sort out the evidence later. Come on, these people must be stopped. Have they stopped trying to cover up their frauds for the holidays? I mean, the military was just working in Venezuela. I mean, they're still operating. No time off for the holidays for them. But the real enemy, the enemy from within, it was just walking around free, enjoying Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah. This guy, Dustin Grage, I've been enjoying. I got a few links from his stuff. He writes, quote, this is, I think he's trying to develop this meme, or maybe this is a newly developing meme. He writes, quote, so you're telling me the Luring Center Google page said they were open 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yes, Dave. Then after Nick Shirley showed no kids there during the day, they changed it to 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. And now we learn they're only licensed to operate until 6 p.m. Correct, Dave. This is meant to be Dave Ramsey asking questions, because the mainstream media, they've been working really hard to discredit Nick Shirley and cover up for all of this fraud that's going on. I mean, why would they want to do that? Here's the video.
Done enough. I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on, for years.
And why did I show up
one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children. They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
This is Nick Shirley making his case to CNN, who's interviewing him.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
And this is after, of course, the daycares were caught. And they had this time buffer to go around and cover their tracks, make up stories, make up excuses. The dog ate all of my childcare paperwork. This isn't what's really going on. Oh, the children weren't there at that time. How long has this been going on? It's popping up in Washington now. It's popping up in Oregon. It's popping up in California. How interesting that it's popping up in all of these deep, deep blue states. How many more communities have been allowed to defraud the American public in exchange for their votes and campaign donations? Do I have to hold my breath? I mean, we have driver's license fraud in Kentucky. What happens when you get a driver's license? Are you registered to vote? You are in Washington State. Election Wizard writes, fraud report. Massive driver's license fraud exposed in Democrat-run Kentucky under Governor Andy Beshear. And he was one of the elections that was a real head-scratcher because Kentucky voted red for everyone except Governor Andy Beshear. Illegals and non-citizens paying $200 cash under the table to skip tests, bypass Homeland Security checks, and get Kentucky licenses illegally. Thousands have now been revoked after whistleblower exposed the scam. Employees fired, but of course, Beshear and the radical left are trying to cover it up. Yesterday, a court found Beshear's administration violated the state's open records laws, and the judge forced release of 2,300 plus records. This is how they rig the system for illegal votes and open borders chaos. Because the cover-up just turns into another cover-up for the cover-up. And it seems to this point that all our politicians, all our attorney generals, going back who knows how many years, have been willing to have their palms greased in exchange for allowing corruption to continue. This is why we need term limits. This is why we need voter ID. This is why we need swift and brutal punishment for the people that have been engaged. You know why there's not so much crime in China or Russia or any of these totalitarian dictatorships, Iran? Because the punishment for committing these crimes, no matter how arbitrary, because it's a totalitarian system. The citizens are so afraid of the punishment that they are deterred from committing the crime. But now, of course, Donald Trump and the Justice Department, Pam Bondi. Ugh, Pam Bondi. Feeling good about her. Who knows? Maybe she comes into work tomorrow and she tells us all that the jig is up. No more fraud going on. We're on top of it. They're gonna pay. We're arresting congressmen and judges and governors. They're all going down. They're gonna pay the price. We're gonna sort through the evidence and decide whether or not to convict them. I really hope. I really want it to be true. But with every passing day, I lose a little more faith that these criminals are actually going to be served the justice that they deserve. But you got to come back next Sunday, 11 a.m. And we'll see. We'll see if anything's happened. Thank you very much for joining the show. Please give me a follow at earthvox on X. Subscribe to my various channels on YouTube and Rumble and Twitch. But most importantly, hit the share button right now and just send this podcast to somebody. Anybody. Help me increase visibility. We're growing. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with my growth. We're getting there. The work is paying off. But I couldn't have done it without your help. So thank you very much for listening. Send me an email, therealearthvox@protonmail.com. I will not sell your email address to anyone. And as always, please leave me a voicemail at 701-787-1121. I'll be back.